Good morning, everybody. Today's August 25th. This is your quick COVID update. School is well underway in most places. And the new governor of New York State, one of her first actions as governor, she put a statewide mask mandate in place. And she said it was at the behest of the administrators of the schools. And I was like, good for you. So let me tell you real quick the numbers in New York City. Literally a month ago was around 300 or 400 cases a day. Their average is up to 2,000 cases a day. And yesterday they had 5,000 cases. Remember the 7-day average, if it's going up like that, it will be lower than what it really is. So yesterday, apparently New York City had 5,000 cases a day. It's crazy. Here in Houston, we're at 3,500 cases for the 7-day average. We've been there for about 3 or 4 days, so we're probably really around 4,000 cases a day. LA is, 3,100. Miami's been around 3,000 cases a day for a month, so that's probably a real number for Miami. But if it's every single day and, 10% of those people need to be hospitalized, you can really imagine what's happening to the Florida hospital systems. But back to our kids, I was thinking about this morning, good for you for doing a school mask mandate, protecting our kids. And she said something interesting. She said the school board leaders said they wanted to go back to parents and be able to say, hey, this is a state mask mandate. It's out of my control. They're doing what they can to protect the kids. Like this idea that we have to do whatever we can to protect the kids, and it's really out of our hands because the state mandated it. Made them feel better. Really, it was like an empowering move, and I was like, good for you. Because people forget history so quickly. One of the big arguments last year when we shut down schools, because we shut down schools back last March, remember that? Like March 2020, kids didn't graduate high school. They didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't know about graduation and college admissions and things like that. And then fall of 2020 and spring of 2021, we had online schools and that huge spot because we didn't really know. Some places tried to have a hybrid. And so masks, spacing, social distancing. And unfortunately, we had the year, we looked at it over, and parents were clamoring that was too hard I have 3 different kids in 3 different grades, couldn't do it. And they said, this is a disease of the old people. Young kids don't get this, a very small percentage are getting it, medical societies and associations were saying, yeah, kids are relatively safe from this. We need to get them back in school. So we planned, listen to me, last spring, like May-ish, we planned to go back to school in the fall. What's the problem? Delta variant hit. So the Delta variant hit is a very different disease, people. Very different disease than wild type COVID. And now we are seeing the people that are being hospitalized are getting younger and younger, 40s, 30s, 28-year-olds are on the vent, ICU. And don't forget that just because they didn't die, they survived it. Dude, you've got some post-ventilation syndrome where it's post-ICU syndrome from being intubated. You can have if you're on the ventilator for a long time, I used to have to do tracheostomies all the time. You want to get out of their oral pharynx and you put the breathing tube directly into their airway here. And you'll see people with scars. They'll have to transition. Can you imagine people? You're going to have a whole generation of 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds with these tracheostomy scars. And you're like, what happened? And you're like, dude, COVID. So you got muscle wasting. You've got loss of coordination. You've got, brain fatigue. There's going to be a huge burden on physical therapists because they're going to try to get all of these people back to walking again, brushing their teeth again, remembering how to write. So just because you survived it, because the numbers aren't that deadly, which they are, they just seem to claim it. Hey, we're going to have, this is going to go on for years, guys. And so now what we're seeing with this Delta variant is that young kids are starting to get sick. And the numbers are small, but for that one parent, it's real. When you've got 3-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 15-year-olds dying, I'm telling you, dying is bad. But the fear of like when you have a 12-year-old in the ICU and it's your child, and we're going to get to a point where you won't be able to see your child. It was one thing when, COVID first hit and it was the old people's disease, Dr. V, like so fucking callous. Like, what is wrong with you? That's someone's mom or grandmother. Oh, but it's old people disease. And then you couldn't see, they wouldn't let people into the hospital. So your parents and grandparents were dying without being around family members. We have forgotten the whole thing where you're saying goodbye to parents on like an iPad. It's ridiculous. And now you're going to have to do that with your kids and your 20-year-old sons and daughters and 30-year-old sons and daughters. It's a whole different pandemic. So this whole, I want to tell you, for people who follow me and believe what I'm trying to say, like, I think a great response to people who are still denying this, still think like, oh, kids aren't affected, we just got to open her up. I think the best chant is to say, dude, that was last year's pandemic. That was last year's numbers. We opened up way too early. We plan to go back to school because of last year's numbers, last year's data. And that's science. Let me tell you, science is amazing. But science will always lag behind the virus. Science will always lag behind the virus. And one of the things they got right last March 2020 was they shut it down. They shut down the economy. They shut everything down. That was the one time that science got it right. They were ahead of the virus. And then for fucking political reasons, they politicized it. Open her up. See, nobody's dying. See, this is not worse than the flu. It is so much worse than the flu. People are still saying this is just the flu. No, it's not. What is wrong with you? So they gave in, the science gave in to political pressures. And then they said, okay, we can try open slowly. And the second you say open slowly, all they hear is open. It's all fucking like Florida beaches are open. Man, like there are going to be some governors with major death tolls on their hands. I just don't know how you reelect. How do you reelect a governor that is, causing this major flare up of COVID, deaths, young people, and threatening to withhold funds for our kids and teachers? Like, how can you be a teachers union and say, oh yeah, we support that governor who threatened us while we were all scared and we didn't know what we were doing when we were trying to hold our jobs? Just do our jobs, just take care of kids. And they couldn't do this very simple thing, politicize this very simple thing. I just don't get it. But crazier things have happened. All right, just remember, it's not last year's pandemic. It's not last year's pandemic. The way we're headed is science is behind the virus. We got to get back in front of the virus. Listen to me. If you have plans of traveling for Thanksgiving, of seeing your friends and family over Christmas, you're part of the problem. You can't do it. I'm already talking to Erica about homeschooling, shutting down. I'm not traveling. Like, y'all want to fucking travel? Y'all travel. Like, you're losing concert tickets. People are buying concert tickets and football tickets, and you might lose your money. Fine. Better that than your life. All right. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.